V. Srinivas Rao, also known as VSR. So I'm the chairman and managing director for BT and BT. I'm also the chairman for Smart Cities Working Group under IET Future Tech Panel India. Today we are going to have very interesting discussion on a topic called digital workspaces of the future. So I have the esteemed panel to join this panel discussion. I'll start with KV Deepu, President, Operations and Customer Experience, Bajaj Alliance; Mansi Thapar, IT Leader, Head Information Security, Jacquard; Biswajit Mahapatra, Partner, Global Delivery Leader, Cloud Migration Factory, IBM. Thank you so much, Deepu, Mansi, Biswajit, for joining this interesting session. All right, let me start this session with a fundamental question like, so before we talk about digital workplace, so what do you think? How do you define digital age workforce? That means how the digital age workforce is different from traditional workforce. Do you observe any changes in the needs, wants of the current age workforce? That means the Gen Zs, Gen Ys, and Gen X. I think baby boomers almost retired. So can you please share your thoughts? Probably start with KV Deepu.
Thank you, VSR. And I think, it's a very timely question. Definitely, we do see a few differences in what we call the digital workforce. One is, especially when we have seen, the COVID-19 scenario come into play. Today, workforce is not just human beings, right? So it goes beyond Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z. It also includes machines, right? So we have bots and human beings, firstly contributing in equal measure. So that's, the first dimension to a digital workforce. The second dimension is, that now that it's largely work from home, what's also happened is, we've been able to tap, hitherto untapped, talent pools. You have homemakers, who are available, for, a limited portion of the day, and they are able to come into the workforce. So to that extent, the work pool, has expanded. Thirdly, in terms of, generational differences, what we have seen is that, thanks to COVID-19, everybody is trying to go digital because, it turned out to be the only option. So whether it is Gen Y, Gen Z, Gen X, whatever, letter of the alphabet you attribute to that particular segment, all of them, are adopting, a digital way of, working and living. And lastly, what we have also seen, because I said digital workforce comprises machines as well as human beings, machines are also, increasingly, mimicking human beings. So we are seeing artificial intelligence being blended with human type behavior, to make it that much more comfortable for human beings. So these are four dimensions, that we have seen from a digital workforce perspective.
Excellent. I think the two important things probably we all need to address. One is the generational gap. I think Gen Zs and Gen Y especially, and a huge gap between Gen Zs and Gen X. I'm sure we are all Gen X, right? So the expectations, the attitude, the behavior. And the second important thing, as you rightly mentioned, the digital workforce, which we never experienced in our life, working with the robo, working with a chatbot. They are our colleagues now. So we have to work with them like colleagues. So how we work with those digital workforce. So I think very good, interesting points, Deepu. Mansi, any thoughts in our view? What is that digital age workforce means to you?
Yeah, I would, agree with what Deepu and you said, but I would like to add that if you look at my domain, right, which is manufacturing, for us, it was like, we are not so tech savvy people, where our 70% of the workforce, we are still training on the legacy systems and, how they need to at least do a WebEx call or do any other use Zoom call. So that was digitalization for us. For us, it was like telling people how to just do a video conference. So I would say that like what I feel from digital age is that now they really want to be agile. They want everything to be available everywhere. If you look at the new generation which is coming in, even in we are doing some interviews, and in the interviews, the kids, the earlier when we were young, we used to just want a job and 9 to 5, and we want to go and work. Now these new kids which are coming in, for them digital is that, okay, what all facilities you are giving me, can I bring my own device, is BYOD allowed in your network or not? That is a very big thing which they're asking. Can I work from home? Do you have a hybrid kind of solutions available with you? So this is what a major shift I'm seeing from traditional to the digital workforce which we are talking about. And of course, what Deepu said, the bots and the robots which we have started using in our manufacturing, which was earlier not there. We are a very highly labor intensive, domain which was there, but now our management has really opened up to this digitalization of how we can,
Right.
bring in robots and IoT.
Okay, great. I think you said something like we are also teaching. There is one extreme where some of the industries already started working with machines and intelligent things, and some of the organizations we have to teach them the fundamentals, how to use the video conferencing calls and all. There are two extremes here, but I think there is no choice. I'm sure the COVID-19, like Deepu mentioned, has forced many of the people to build even a partial workplaces which are digital, right? So now with this digital age workforce, okay, what do you think the changes are happening, Deepu, in the workplace? Did you see any major changes in the last 3 years? Of course, including COVID-19. So what do you call as a digital workspace? I mean, or working environment? So what do you call in workplace in precisely? Workspace and
Yeah,
workplace, whatever, both
yeah,
together. So how do you define that?
yeah. No, VSR, of course, there have been, quite a few changes, at the workplace as well. One thing which we have seen, and especially as we get into this work from home scenario, is that even as employees are physically and socially distanced, the need for keeping them connected digitally and emotionally, has become even greater. Because when people are working in a remote manner, they need empathy, they need to feel connected. So, so clearly, that the need for connection has arisen. And one thing, we have seen, and at least that's something which we were able to implement very well, is when employees used to be in the office, the nature of engagement used to be employee engagement. In the sense, it would revolve around the employee. Now that people are working from home, the focus has shifted from employees to families. So now it's about family engagement. And we have seen that it's made a significant difference from a workforce point of view. The third thing which we have seen is now there is a lot more empowerment. People have devices. It's today no longer about monitoring activity, but it's about monitoring outcome. Because when people are working from home, you don't have team leaders, you don't have people monitoring you by the minute, right? It's moved to completely outcome based model. How do you deliver based on the outcome? That is the second one. The third is, I think, the need for agility. You see, what COVID-19 did was it forced firms to give a response to employees and customers for an event for which they were absolutely unprepared. And it is not the last event that we are going to see in our lifetime. We can't say after COVID-19 we are not going to see any other black swan event. Future events will arise, and the challenge will be to be prepared for events which are not happening today, because at that time your competitor or some firm is ready, then your customers will gravitate there. So how do you be ready for events which you are unprepared for? So I think these are some fundamental shifts we have seen in the last few years.
Yeah, but I think I think in continuation to our conversation, I have two questions. Working from home for a long time. So do you see? I mean, I have seen some of the reports. Most of the employees wants to come back to the office, and some people are really getting depressed without seeing that office lively environment where there is a coffee shop gossiping or some networking, some events, and all they are missing. That's number one. And number two, as a culture, do you agree? I think a couple of years back, I put one LinkedIn message where 60,000 people responded as a viewed, and 150 people basically commented, and 50% blasted me. When I said, usually our Indians need follow up, guidance, and reviews. Okay. So follow up, reviews, and guidance. That means we have to really make sure that they are providing the required guidance. But you said that when they are working from home, it's like a self-driving workforce is getting created and all. But I'm little bit perplexed here. As a culture, we need a lot of follow-ups, a lot of guidance, right? A lot of mentoring and all. And so, how do you take it? These 2 points, can you please share your thoughts? I mean, one is the networking and
Yes,
the social networking they are missing,
yes.
and second is the self-driving organization type of a workforce, how they accustomed to.
So I think both are extremely good questions, VSR. I think on the first question, there is absolutely no gainsaying the fact that as social animals, right, we have been conditioned for years to be social beings. Work from home exclusively, for years. can obviously, make you feel, socially awkward. So I think the future is going to be a balance of, working from home for large periods of time with, physical get-togethers once in a while. Maybe you end up going to office depending on the frequency, once a week, once a month, once a fortnight, once a quarter, where you just want to mingle, and get to know people, let your hair down, have a party. So I think it will not be zero, right? There will be a combination. That's point number one. Point number two, your point is in terms of Indians requiring follow-ups and governance and reviews. Yes, I think we do find these cultural differences across various parts of the globe. There are some parts of the globe where it's you tell them and it gets done, and there are parts where you need to follow up. I think right now India is in a transition phase. Now, what happened during
Mm.
COVID-19 was everybody was forced to work from home, and you see, it was not just restricted to one industry or one zone. It's a global phenomenon today. Everybody is working from home. As a result, what has happened, there have been some good benefits. One is, for example, today meetings, by and large start and end on time. Unlike earlier, where you had to wait, so that's clearly, and you're seeing it happening immediately. The other
Right.
is physically, it's not possible to monitor when people are working from home. Then what happens? Necessity is the mother of invention. And in India, right, there's a jugaad mindset, right, which is even taught in Harvard. Jugaad is finding a solution to a problem. So what people have done, they've come up with measures and incentives by which people get measured on outcomes. So if you're working from home, while I cannot monitor how many calls do you handle, how many units do you process in a day. So it has moved to that. As a result of which, the employee is told that whether you work 8 hours, 6 hours, 10 hours, we don't know. We're not monitoring you. But if you don't produce your minimum output, then the incentives will be docked. So that is the way I'm saying, that the situation
Excellent.
has forced the change from monitoring to output, driven incentives.
Yeah, then I think this the working model of having a mediocre people might be challenging. So we need to have really the people who can deliver. So I think that trend might happen. Okay, now
That is
coming to
true. That is true.
Mansi, now yeah. So now we are talking about gig economy, especially when this technology innovation is happening. We are talking about almost 20 technologies today. Last time I just put it on one of the presentation. So just 20 technologies out of the 10 are very active. Almost every enterprise is now probably struggling to acquire all these skills, but it is impossible for one organization to acquire all these skills. So that means more and more organizations are forced to depend on external specialists. And I might be having, I mean, if you look at some platforms like Kaggle, where data scientist pool is available, and like that, more and more the freelancers and the specialist, external specialist utilization will go up. So in that scenario, then it's not only working from home. The guy might working from other country. He might work from coffee shop. He might work from a entertainment centers. Okay. Then what is that in the workplace perspective? The infrastructure, the policies needs to be changed, and how the security will be taken care in this to accommodate this gig economy.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing question, and I love this word you used, gig economy. And I'm sure that I went and Googled it. I was not sure about what this means. So yeah, I agree that, and I am a firm believer, VSR, that everything can't be possessed by an organization. You need to leverage, you need to outsource, you need to do things. And now with COVID-19, it is global. Everything has opened up. So basically, what you're asking is the BYOD model, right? Now people are coming in with their devices, working from home. Maybe they're using their networks. So what I feel is that BYOD is completely not possible where security is concerned. But what you need to take is you need to have people, process, and technology together and work together to get it done. So basically what we did, I can share our best practice. So basically you have four options where bring your own device is concerned. That is whether you want to give unlimited access for personal devices, you want access only for non-sensitive systems, you need to segregate that. You want access but IT controlled over personal devices, like you have some apps like MDM and EDD, like enterprise device management, which are installed on those BYOD models. Or also you have access but privileged, but you are preventing local storage, like you're using VD solutions or stuff like that. So these are the infrastructure solutions which you can use, like to maintaining security even when a device is being brought in from BYOD. So what we have implemented is, one is your MDM solution. What MDM solution does is that it helps you, wipe out your data from the BYOD device when the person is no longer working for you. So because that there are a lot of data privacy laws which are now coming in, so you need to factor that as well. In fact, in insurance, in banking, there's a lot of other compliances which you need to look at. So MDM is one solution which is which really helps you. where security is concerned. The second I would say is enterprise mobility management, which is the EMM solution. That also really helps you where security is concerned, because then you can segregate and have a complete that control over the device. And this is
Mm.
technology. Now if you come to policies, you should have a agreement with the person who's working for you, which is a like a EULA agreement, so that they know that this is what I am ready to do. Like suppose they are, I'll give you an example. Suppose they are just downloading a software which is pirated on your BYOD device, but as your device is getting connected to the network, you can get into compliances from the OEM. So your MDM or your EMM device will quickly flag and tell him that you're
Mm.
installing a software which is not allowed. So please don't do it because you're
Okay.
working for Jaguar or someone. So this is these are some of the security things you can really look at where bring your own device is concerned.
Yeah, I think as you rightly said, I think infrastructure amendments needs to be done, especially to encourage this gig economy. Last time when
Yeah.
I was discussing in one of the panels, suppose you take a big company, every month I have to ramp up 100 external specialists throughout the world. Okay, that means the virtual desktops have to be enabled, right? So they could be able to access from anywhere, anytime, using their devices and all. So I think it's very well articulated. So the infrastructure, the policies have to be revisited to successfully embrace this gig economy or external specialist and all. Biswajit, I would like to ask, in continuation of the discussion, what do you think? What changes to be brought in the software applications and technology infrastructure, especially when we are talking about digital workplaces? Could you please share your thoughts on that, Biswajit?
Okay, thanks, Mr. Besar. So please look at the digital shift fast, what's happening all around us today, right? There are three very important tenets. The first is the entire business model is changing, right? There is reimagination of business happening all around us. The second important tenet is new expertise. People are focused around building restless talent as well as orchestrated ecosystem. And the third one, which probably you are mostly hinting at, which is basically what impact the applications and infrastructure are going through today to make the digital workspace happen. It's all around actionable insights as well as responsive operations. And that's the way the whole world is moving towards today, right? When we are embracing digital workspace and moving towards a cognitive enterprise, of course, the hybrid multi-cloud infrastructure is going to be the key, right? The
Mm.
foundation of entire digital workforce. We need to bring in culture of agile innovation. We need to look at all of the exponential technologies that we talk about, AI, ML, blockchain, IoT. Those needs to be part of your intelligent workflows today. Then a lot of next gen applications that you really need to take into account. And when it comes to predictive intelligence and proactive analytics, of course, all of this needs to be fueled by data, right? So
Mm.
that's basically the new ecosystem of new age application and infrastructure in the digital workplace that is leading in. But how it's really getting geared up? Like, let's look at three important layers. The first important layer is your digital foundation. As I talked about shifting to the cloud, right? You need
Right.
to look at resilient infrastructure. You need to look at pervasive platforms and tools. And in the same time, you have to really move away from your perimeter security to embedded security practices, right? That's going to lay the foundation of your digital workforce. And
Mm.
all those are going to be enabled by several virtual collaboration tools, automation practices that is going to drive your digital workforce agenda in the coming days. When you talk about cloud, earlier days, people are talking more about inside out transformation. But today, the transformation has actually moved from outside in transformation. How do you really migrate those workloads to cloud? How do you quickly modernize those workloads, clouds, or build cloud native applications to stay tuned and meet your digital workplace demands, meet your business demands? It's basically the new way of doing things. In
I
the
think
same time,
then, yeah. So sorry to interrupt here. So you're telling that the workloads will be different and they are very much, I think, voluminous when it is a digital workspace and all. That means you need to get into hybrid clouds and all. So that means, do you expect the changes in the existing applications, the software applications. I think if some of the organizations they might be having for last 40, 50 years, 30 years, whatever. I mean, we moved from mainframe, mini-frame, client server, internet, and now we are in digital. So what do you think, while the infrastructure foundation is set up, what are the changes needs to be brought in the existing software applications? What new applications needs to be built
Absolutely. So
to support digital
yeah,
workspaces?
so you talked about the mainframe world, and the entire industry has evolved over a period of time, and the degree of disruption has also evolved probably pretty much rapidly in last couple of years, right? And traditionally, we have moved from a cost-focused environment to a innovation-focused environment, right? When I say cost-focused environment, it was probably more lift and shift, like to like migration of workloads to cloud, right?
Right.
What we call as rehosting. But today, it's all about refactoring, replatforming, rewriting, or completely replacing by commercial off-the-shelf packages on a SaaS model, right? So there are new way of doing things, building upon certain foundation services like your DevSecOps practices, site reliability engineering practices, right? Those are the new things that needs to be part of your foundation of building the digital workforce and software systems. And in the same time, you have to look at how, like we talked about AI/ML, right? How could you really embed AI/ML? How could I implement various startups, AI ops kind of situations so that I become more automated, more productivity oriented, and more quality oriented? So we need to look at intelligent workflows. We need to look at exponential technologies. And in the same time, we need to look at next gen applications. And combination of all of those are going to drive the new age transformation agenda.
Okay, so but what are the cost implications? I mean, it is very good. A lot of technologies are coming in, and there is always an investment of time and money, and also the leadership bandwidth. So, for these digital workspaces, transitioning from this traditional to a semi-digital and then full digital. So, what do you think? How the organizations will get geared up in terms of the budget perspective, and also, so what are the factors will drive them to take more interest on this digital workspace?
Okay, I think very interesting question again, right? So let's think about, I call it as a continuous modernization agenda, basically, right? You are not going to do everything big bang tomorrow, everything is available and everything is operational, right? So you need to really lay your lead map based on the strategy, envisioning that you are driving today, right? Create those roadmaps, agree that with your success criteria, and deliver those success criteria, and incrementally you need to build upon that, right? And for when you are doing the strategic envisioning, you have to look at your possible outcomes, probable outcomes, as well as plausible outcomes to meet your cost objectives. Of course, cost is important, but let's be also very clear that you need to spend money to save money, right? So, and many times people probably do not realize that and do not see that. And probably when I talk to many of my CIO friends pre-pandemic, probably the agenda was different. But now I think more and more people have realized that and started embracing that transformation agenda.
Right. So now coming back to Deepu, I think you are more consumer intensive industry, right? I'm sure. And anyhow, the insurance, I think a lot of new trends are coming in, usage-based insurance with where cars are basically tracking what is the driving pattern and all. But that is a separate part. Now let me come back to when I said consumer intensive, you might be introducing so many innovations, but the employees are there. For example, I'm sure you might be having few thousands of employees throughout India and abroad. So like in customer experience management, there is like a persona, there is a journey map, that each interaction point, now you are designing the experience. It's not just only meeting the transactional needs, you are capturing the emotional needs, when they think positive, when they think negative, all those things. I think most of the organizations are tracking now for customers, a journey map, interaction points, at each interaction point what is the today's experience, and then how we can emotionally engage the customers. The similar trends do you expect with the employees also? I call it as an employee experience management, where the productivity goes up, the retention will be increased. What technologies can be used? AI, ML, social, mobile. So please share your thoughts there, Deepu.
So yes, sir, I think it's an absolutely valid point, because as they say, happy employees, make happy customers. And today, when you have, technology being leveraged for customers across the entire gamut of the activities of the enterprise, then why not, do the same for employees? So for us, we leverage, technology even before employees join. So for example, if you look at, candidates who want to get interviewed, we have a robotic hiring process. So they don't have to travel to the nearest location. And they are sometimes also are constrained by the fact that the human interviewer is available only during working hours, let's say from morning to evening. Here they have to basically just, go to the nearest cyber cafe. The robo will speak to them. It can even, observe their lip movements, eye movements, body language, and give an assessment to us. The benefit here for candidates is that, as I said, somebody sitting in a very far away location doesn't have to travel to the nearest location. He can even go at midnight to the cyber cafe. So that's where it starts. So clearly, that's one area where we've automated, the interview hiring process. The second is, when
Okay.
employees, come on board, then we obviously have an app where employees can use an app, for all their queries. So the app is like a buddy. And especially when you're talking about somebody getting onboarded digitally, it becomes a very handy tool, for employees to leverage. Then the third is, we have a homegrown, learning and development program where the modules are not, prescribed, from scratch, where employees can go and curate, their own programs. So that has been a huge hit with our employees. So they can pick up, areas like such as machine learning, or somebody has, received some feedback on development needs, they can pick it up. So it's a menu-based system. So that's something, digital learning, which has really, helped our employees, ramp it up. And then
Okay.
the other area where we have used tools, like I told you, is also in terms of, keeping our employees connected, even when they are basically, physically distanced. So we've leveraged, for example, when we conducted a master chef on the weekend, we told employees to post, recipes and photographs, in the WhatsApp group. So they did that. We announced winners. So it worked equally, beautifully. That's how, we've leveraged, technology. And then
Okay.
we also have, employees, logging in their mood for the day, and then we can do a sentiment analysis and then get back, with a happiness quotient. And then, we take
So how
feedback
are
and work on
you
it.
tracking the mood, Deepu? Sorry to interrupt. How are you tracking the mood?
So basically, we ask each employee on his, because the desktop or the laptop is unique. So we basically have a range of,
Okay.
emojis, and the employees go and choose it. So
Oh,
based on that, we are
all
able
right.
to, do that. Yeah. So from interviewing to,
Yeah,
keeping
all right.
employees connected, to an app, to learning to this one. I gave you 5 examples, we've leveraged, technology throughout, to keep employees, happy and motivated.
That's very interesting. Now, my next question to you is like most of the organizations now have a chief marketing officer, and sometimes we are saying that the technology budget is moving from CIO to CMO. So, your CHRO or your CPO, maybe chief people officer or chief HR officer. So, what do you see the trends? I mean, I don't see much of the difference. Customer experience, employee experience, more or they are people, right? Maybe some context might vary. So, what is the education level today to the HR in general in terms of embracing these digital technologies? Have they started creating the employee journey maps, identify the interaction points? Have they identified what is the experience today we are offering so that we can design a new experience with technology? So what is your view there?
So I think the adoption of technology for us, be it employees or be it customers, as I mentioned to you, is already very high. Because as I mentioned to you, we are a digitally savvy organization. We are ranked number 8 amongst the global top 100 digital insurers. And when COVID-19
Great.
came in and made digital not just a complete way of working, but a complete way of living, I think, we just, took it up, another notch. So
Right.
if you look at our learning, we have used, gamification. So that's clearly one area, we will leverage, technology. I just spoke to you about the entire interview hiring process, where we've leveraged, robotics, to ensure that the entire, process is, automated. Similarly, when it comes to, employee understanding, we've leveraged, AI ML to understand, employee needs, training needs, chart out, employee specific programs. For example, what are the skills that people have? How do we have, employee centric programs? So clearly I think, the adoption has been very high. And if you see across firms today, whether it is HR, whether it is IT, whether it is marketing, whether it is finance. If you look at various functions today, it's like a transfer pricing model, right? You pick the technology you want, speak to us, and then, we get it delivered for you. And that's the way it works. So whether it is working with startups, whether it is, developing it in-house, I think today, the digital quotient across the entire organization has been significantly high.
Great. Okay. So you have a CAO organization where you closely work with, or how that this is the most important challenge today. Most of the companies says that our CAOs are not able to cope up with our. I'm talking about general. I'm not talking about Bajaj Alliance or something like that. So what do you see this shift? Are the CAOs gearing up and then trying to provide value to customers? You are taking care of customer experience and operations. So I'm sure a lot of, I think, innovations you brought in, but without the technological support and without the response, the agility and resilience, you can't really do your job, right? So how the CAO
And
organizations are responding in general in India?
yeah, I think that goes without saying. Today, without technology or digitization, you can't make a difference. I think there are three factors here. I think one is, of course, the individual person. Second, I think, is the industry, sorry, the firm. And third, I think, is the industry. Because you will see there are some industries, which are more advanced than others. And then within industries, you will find, that there are some firms, which are more savvy than the others. What I have seen here, BSR, is how you build your culture. Because culture is, strategy for breakfast. If you're able to build, a digitally savvy culture, which is across the entire organization, then you find that, the tone at the top finds an echo at the bottom. And then when everybody is bought into that, then adoption is easy, as well as scaling up also becomes easy.
Biswajit, again, coming back to you. So I have another question, interesting question. So we talked about the digital workspaces and all. What do you think in terms of the employee mindset, attitude, and behavior? Because when in a digital workspace, it is entirely new. That means they might work remotely. There are some real-time contextual communications, collaborations. A lot of technological interventions will be there. Manual interventions will be minimized. With all these things, and they are now currently working remotely also, right? So, what do you think in the behavioral and attitudinal change, and how the leadership team has to gear up to manage the change happening in the employees' mindset in the digital workspaces?
Very interesting question. And in fact, I'm living by that. So it makes me happy, right? So the first thing is what is the change employees are going through basically, right? I look at it in two dimensions. The first dimension is that we all know, right? Suddenly the formal, social, and office environment has kind of changed to a very informal, I call it as a familial environment, right? That's a big change. Okay? So from your office, suddenly your home becoming office, and you have to manage a lot of home dynamics along with your office work, right? So you are on a call, maybe your kid is standing behind you and asking you something, right? So you have to set all those stops and set the expectations rightly for all the stakeholders to make that happen and to make that understandable. That's a stress level lot of employees are going through today, right? Considering the family conditions, the nucleus way we live today, right? So all those things, socio-economic, socio-psychological dimension, right? The other transition that has really happening is basically how you are actually moving from one of your official infrastructure, official way of doing things. When you are overnight becoming completely online, it comes with all of those relevant stresses, right? So you talked about virtual collaboration, right? How can I use Mural? How can I use Slack? How can I communicate? Many of us getting into Zoom calls or WebEx calls today, right? And at times we are not sure whether the other person is reciprocating on the call or not. So all those dynamics that comes into picture, right?
The
so
screen
now
time goes up. I guess the screen time is too much, right? I mean, it's not like the screen time is probably 5 times more than what you have been. Physical meetings versus virtual, you have to continuously see the video. So
absolutely.
that also really make a lot of difference. Yeah,
absolutely.
please. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's another transition basically, right? Suddenly from work-life balance, we are talking about work-life continuum. Right? So how do you balance that? And of course, there are opportunities and challenges there as well. And as a leader, you need to really be on the forefront of this to help your employees, to support your employees, not only focused on productivity, cost, and other stuff. It's time now for all the leaders to really focus on
Sure.
uh, the well-being of your people, well-being of your employee, right? So that's point number one. On the second important leadership change that I look at it, let's think about this, right? So idea of top-down leadership is thing of the past today,
Mm.
right? So now the leadership, the decision making is completely democratized, completely decentralized, right? So you have to really work with that in those parameters to drive the well-being of your employees and your teams, basically, right?
Right.
So practically, if you ask me what I practice for my teams, the first thing is be completely vulnerable,
Mm.
right? Foster culture of collaboration, culture of trust, integrity, and ethics, right? That is going to come in a long way when you are working on a virtual model, be with your teams, be with your clients or your ecosystem partners, right? So that's again another important thing, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Then the other parameter is that you being a leader, you being a manager, uh, gone those days that you don't need to learn, right? So it's continuous learning,
Learning.
unlearning, and relearning for you all the time, basically, right? So you need to really focus on that, right? And of course, agility and collaboration that I talked
Sure.
about, those are the things you have to practice to become
Okay.
successful.
Thank you, Biswajit. I think it's very nice. So you talk about the learnability of the leaders and the new systems and the skills. And of course, policies needs to be revisited. As you said, somebody is working at the home and remotely they are working on all. What are all the new challenges will come? The HR and the business have to work together to devise the new policies. Very important. And most importantly, I believe the induction process has to be completely re-engineered.
Absolutely. In fact, the leaders now, it's high time really to understand and
Yes,
make changes to their existing hardware processes. What worked yesterday is not going to work today the same.
absolutely. So, Mansi, I think Jack were into mostly into the home-based solutions, right? I mean, you provide a lot of solutions and all. So, what do you think if more and more this working from home culture is embraced? Do you see if the home also become a workplace? And when we are doing such type of a webinar, our kid may come in the middle and maybe say, "Hey, dad, amma, nana, whatever, right? A different whatever language we use that." And he's saying, I think Deepu was saying the family engagement is very important. Then I cannot say it out, so I have to probably embrace, right? I mean, okay, all right, and there is an acceptance, for example. That's one. Second is when the workplace and home are same, especially women employees. What are the challenges you think they have to handle? Do you see any difference? The male hero sitting at home working, and then women employees working at home. Plus, in our culture, it is different, right? So, can you share your thoughts on that? The work
Yeah,
and workplace.
so basically, yeah, I think that we have come a long way, but still there is a long way to go where women are concerned, especially if they're sitting at home. So as you rightly said, all the kids, even the male members, they feel that now the female is at home, she'll take care of everything. When you are at work, there is a lot of support system around, and when you are at home, the same thing fails a bit. But yes, I would say that we people are changing because now when they know that this is the new normal, right? We are at home, but at the same time we need to earn the bread and we need to do our work because we are very passionate about it. So I think it is the same thing, VSR. We need to again sit with them as we did 10 years back when we needed their support. We explained to the family that, see, this is my work area. And, when I'm working, I need your support that we need to be quiet. We need people not walking in. And I'll get you your breakfast and your lunch, but please let me do my calls first. So that is there.
Okay.
But I would say there is some additional benefit also working from home. See, I come from an organization where there was zero work from home, and they bended the rules for me 4 years back. And I was the only one in the organization who had work from home options. But now, when the other,
Mm.
females, because and I would say the ratio of male versus female is just 20/80 in our organization. So now, when the senior management is also working from home, they realize that work can
Mm.
happen. Earlier, in India, the mindset is really changing. It was like if you're sitting at home, you're not doing anything. So now, as Deepu also rightly said,
Okay.
and you also mentioned that the culture is changing. India is in a very transition space. So for females as well, the transition is there, but slowly and gradually, people are understanding that how we also need to cope up with our home and work. But yes, still there is a long way to go. You're right.
I think there is a designated workplace at home, and there is some sort of a orientation and training required, not only for the kids, if any of elders are there. Okay, this is the place
Yeah.
and all, and there is some timetable. This is the time where you also inform the organization, this is the time I am not available, and this is the time I am completely available, or something. I think this sort of, I think, tweakings needs to be done irrespective of male or female. So working from home
Exactly.
is, I think, a different work environment, which
Yeah.
will further, I think, get accelerated and all. So for both of
Right.
you, another question: when we say digital age workforce and digital workplaces and all, next, let us say a couple of years, there might be so many jobs which will be done by robots, chatbots, virtual assistants, and blockchain smart contracts might probably make a bit of autonomous operations, right? So a lot of technologies probably might reduce the existing workforce and probably bring some new workforce with the new skills. So in this digital age, what do you think the education system in India today, is it ready to embrace that change? Let us say 3 years from now, and any new changes needs to be brought in the education curriculum or the culture or the infrastructure and so on and so forth. I think you could, anyone can take up that question.
Yeah, so I would take that VSR first. That I feel that there are things changing because now you see a lot of different courses and things coming up in our universities, at least where cybersecurity is concerned, where IT, AI, ML, you see a lot of robotics, different things have been introduced in schools, but there is a long way to go. Like, I'll give you an example. My daughter, she's 13, and during lockdown, she wanted to do something. She said, I want to educate my friends on cybersecurity. I said, that's a very good thought. And she came up with an app, she came up with a website, and she's doing some courses. Even she did it with Barclays. But the moment when we sat with the children, we thought they'll be very, they'll be knowing a lot of things. But once we came and talked, the children were not aware. They were downloading games left, right, and center. They didn't know
Hmm.
how what bullying, digital bullying is all about. So I sat with the principal of the school and I, asked her that can we do some sessions free of cost where we can educate children. So she said that they have been taking this up with the CBSE board and a lot of other boards that they want these kind of curriculums to be put in the children, not only for for skills, for at least you need to be aware of what's happening around the world. So that
Okay.
is something which really need to work on where our education system is concerned. And second, I think that more digitalization is required where courses are
Hmm.
available to, as Deepu said, that in their office, they have given courses where people can choose. These kind of courses, digital courses should be available for students at least in senior wings, like, starting ninth, that some kind of extra things they can build up if they want from the schools.
Sure, sure. So when higher order think, I mean lower order thinking skills based work is taken over by robots or some AI ML driven algorithms, Deepu, what do you think the education system? Do you think in India are we teaching the higher order thinking skills like analysis, then evaluation, creativity, innovation? So more and more the brain work rather physical work. So, what do you think the Indian education system readiness? The new education policy is basically there. So, can you share some of the thoughts there?
No, I think VSR, I think Mansi also, made some valid points, when she spoke about it. See, if you look at, the education systems, typically, uh, the need for agility, I think, is very high because, there is typically a lag between, the way the world around us is changing, and the education system, the way it reorients, itself to what is going on. What is, critical is one is as we get into, let's say, a digital way of working where you don't have, printed textbooks and, so on and so forth, then of course we can be, much more agile. The other is, areas such as cybersecurity. Similarly, when we speak about AI and ML, everybody speaks about AI and ML. They become buzzwords. But how
Hmm.
do you translate that into, meaningful education for children, right? Can you start applying AI and ML across, various parts of the spectrum, right? That's clearly one. The third is this entire combination of man and machine. How do you combine the science of AI, with the art of, human emotions, to make it human-centric AI? So I think these things clearly need to be brought into the curriculum. And the other is, I think, also the point that you can't teach digitization manually. You have to teach digitization digitally. So are you also using digital tools, right? You can't be
Right.
like, learning swimming, outside the swimming pool, right? So the mode
True.
of teaching, and now, since we have COVID-19 and we're online learning, it can give an impetus. So the method of teaching and the content, if you're agile, then, we can, certainly ramp it up. As of now, there's a huge gap.
Yeah, I think more and more personalization and the pace at which the students learn, it's not like one medicine fits all. As you said, the personalization is possible only through digitalization, especially the gamification technologies are coming in and so on and so forth. I think it's an excellent discussion. So we touched upon so many areas like employee experience, what is the digital workforce or digital age workforce, then how the human workforce and digital workforce work together, what are the policies needs to be changed, what infrastructure changes needs to be brought in, and how the security aspects needs to be taken care, gig economy and extended workforce are coming in, how we can work and all, and also the education system, how we need to really change so that they will be ready for this digital workplaces and all. Thank you so much for joining this.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.